So once again, good morning to all. We're now moving into the portion of our presentation that's called the Lonely Canadian class. The Lonely Canadian, we can talk about this subject in detail and review several case studies. However, as a limited amount of time has been allotted, I will do my utmost to summarize the important main points. The Lonely Canadian class is one of those classes or programs that are quite, I would say, ambiguous or slippery to many RCICs, because little literature is available both on the IRCC website, and perhaps Barbara, you'd like to talk about that maybe in a bit, and in the IRPAs and the IRPRs as well. We'll take a closer look at the information available today. So as you see here, I've listed here a few different names that this class is known to. I've made one up for today's presentation. Help Me, I'm Alone, that can be one of the names. It's also known as Other Relative Program, Lonely Family Member, or Lonely Canadian. And for the sake of our presentation and our discussion today, we'll refer the class to the Lonely Canadian class. So, reading and understanding Regulation 130 is paramount to first understanding what it means and what is required to sponsor under the family class. So Regulation 130, subject to subsections 2 and 3, is sponsored for the purpose of sponsoring a foreign national who makes an application for permanent resident visa as a member of the family class, or an application to remain in Canada as a member of the spouse or common law partner in Canada class under subsection 13, subsection 1 of the Act, must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident who, A, is 18 years of age, B, resides in Canada, and being obviously another important word, C, has filed a sponsorship application in respect of a member of the family class or the spouse or common law partner in Canada class in accordance with Section 10. Also very important here in discussing the Lonely Canadian class is Regulation 117 or 117. And it's very important to take a very, very close look at this regulation and fully understand it. Something I want to bring forward here is the word others. Others must be heeded as well. We'll take a closer look here at Regulation 117 now. So Regulation 117, a foreign national is a member of the family class if, with respect to a sponsor, the foreign national is A, the sponsor's spouse, common law partner, or conjugal partner, as in Gubby's presentation, B, a dependent child of the sponsor, C, the sponsor's mother or father, D, the mother or father of the sponsor's mother or father. I'll go past E, F, a person whose parents are deceased, who is under 18 years of age, who is not a spouse or common law partner, and who is 1, a child of the sponsor's mother or father, 2, a child of the sponsor's mother or father, or a child of the sponsor's child. Now here, very, very important for this particular class is Regulation 117, Section H. And this more or less directly relates to the Lonely Canadian class. H says, a relative of the sponsor regardless of age, if the sponsor does not, and I repeat, does not, have a spouse, a common law partner, or a conjugal partner, a child, a mother or father, a child, or a relative rather, who is a child of that mother or father, now it gets interesting, a relative who is a child of that mother or father, a mother or father of that mother or father, or a relative who is a child of the mother or father of that mother or father. I think they're trying to cover as many bases here as possible. And I would suggest you read this about 150 times so you'll understand it correctly, but after reading it a few times, it makes sense. And I'll just go on and with Section I, who is a Canadian citizen, Indian, or permanent resident, or whose application to enter and remain in Canada as a permanent resident the sponsor may otherwise sponsor. Just one note here, if the sponsor has a relative, I almost said obvious, but sometimes it's not obvious. If the sponsor has a relative included in Regulation 117, however, that relative is not interested in applying for PR in Canada, then the sponsor is not eligible to sponsor under the Lonely Canadian class.
Mm-hmm.
Repeat?
Yes.
With pleasure. If the sponsor has a relative that is included in that crazy list before that I mentioned. Wasn't going back. Here, if the sponsor has a relative included in Regulation 117, however that relative is not interested, he or she is not interested in applying for PR in Canada, then the sponsor is not eligible to sponsor under the Lonely Canadian class. Okay? Yep.
Not eligible.
Not eligible.
What about not eligible?
Excuse me.
Let's say not eligible because of health.
Because, I'll get to that in a moment. Okay. This kind of hopefully tries to clear up a little bit regarding that previous subsection H. You may sponsor one relative related by blood or adoption of any age if you meet all the conditions including